Center's annual candlelighting service. And I'm so glad you're all here. Definitely you want to have a candle available and something with which to light it to take full part in this service. Our theme this year is that's the second part, the Christmas journey, a journey of spiritual embodiment. And we'll have special music by Paul Enberg and Drac. And Drac will share a meditation, and Revi Norman Wolf will guide us on that journey towards spiritual embodiment. As we start the service, we'll have, just following this introduction, we'll have some special music, and then Carol Becker will read a poem, and there will be a congregational song. And since we're all muted, feel free to sing along anytime, and welcome.
Well, we finished cutting down our Christmas tree now, and it's now time to start our program, our annual Abundant Life Center program. And usually we play this song right before the service. Charlotte used to run around the house singing this song in German, and she called it O Tannenbaum. For us, it's O Christmas Tree. Merry Christmas.
This is the original Christmas Gifts poem by Trina Grabson. Giving gifts at Christmas has always been a part of the Christmas tradition right from the very start. 3 wise men, magi, or kings, we are told, were the first with gifts, frankincense, myrrh, and gold. Traveling a great distance, following the heralding star, they came to give homage from their lands of afar, giving valuable gifts to the newborn divine king. To represent his presence, why these did they bring? Gold, a precious metal of worth fit for royalty, giving status to the king, his highness for all to see. Frankincense and incense, his divinity to represent, an anointment in worship for the babe heavenly sent. Myrrh, a valuable oil to signify his humanity, medicinal, used in death, humans united in destiny. Gold for a royal king, myrrh for his human part, frankincense for the God he truly was at heart. And now, aeons past, we still use this tradition, although consumerism's made gift buying such a mission. Many now seek simplicity, bringing Christmas back at last to the innocence and joy of the Christmases of past. These first gifts can be used as a symbol even today. Their wisdom can be a guide to show another way. Give a royal gift of gold, nothing to do with money spent, something they want or need, individual worthiness intent. Give divine frankincense in a spiritual growth gift, from development or just fun, to let their spirits lighten and lift. Give the humanity of myrrh, anything worn in various forms, or enhances the physicalness, more than just the body warms. Something for their physical body, something to quench their desire, but especially remember to give something to lift their spirit higher.
It's safe and healed and whole. Spirit given free to save the world. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. Spirit am I, free to forgive and free to save the world. Spirit am I. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. Spirit am I, free to forgive and free to save the world. Spirit am I, Spirit am I, Spirit am I, Spirit am I. So we center ourselves in the knowing that we are human beings having a spiritual experience and spiritual beings having a human experience, which is a remarkable thing. But most of all, we look at how, as beings, we are on a journey, a powerful journey like the Magi, of coming to the truth of who we truly are, and that is spiritual beings in these human bodies. And as we unfold and learn through self-reflection, we discover the spirit that we truly are. We discover the truth that we are more than just people on this planet walking around having our physical experiences, going through our moments. That each moment is sacred. That it is our journey into the truth of who we are, the Christ that each one of us carries within. As we each carry that Christ light. We each are spiritual beings, and that is what this journey is about. Coming to that place, that center of knowing the truth of who we are as spiritual beings on this human planet. And so it is.
Are you ready? Is your soul ready to dive in? To dive into the Christmas story? Stories Of all the beings on earth, and maybe even beyond, humans are unique in that we live in stories. We don't just live in the world, we live in our stories about the world. Every culture, every civilization, every spiritual tradition uses stories to carry its deepest truths, not as literal explanations, but as vessels of meaning. And stories don't stand apart from our interpretation of them. It is the story and our interpretation that helps us understand who we are and why we are here. They guide us in deciding what matters and how we should live. The Christmas story is a sacred story, told and retold in many languages, in many cultures, with many interpretations. When you think of the Christmas story, what comes to mind? A child in a manger? Angels? Shepherds? A star? A little drummer boy? Tonight, I'd like us to go on a journey to explore the mystery, to see what might be discovered within this sacred story. What is the story really pointing to, and what truth is it carrying? Why does some version of the story appear again and again across cultures and even across many spiritual traditions? We can read the Gospels as a story of what happened, but I invite us to consider that the Gospels are also revealing a much deeper meaning. Each Gospel, John, Luke, and Matthew, offers a different view into the miracle and mystery of the birth of the Christ. What does it mean when we say God was born this day? I mean, let's think about it. God created Adam in God's own likeness. So God was already born. Why did God have to come again through Jesus? So let's explore this, and let's kind of go back to the Genesis story. God forms Adam from dust of the earth and breathes into him the breath of life. Adam, well, that's us, humanity, is matter animated by spirit. So from the very beginning, humanity is not separate from the sacred. We carry something of God within us always. As the story continues, something else is revealed. Something else happens, specifically in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, a place of unity, a life of innocence, but without self-awareness. Adam lives in unity with God, blissful, but without knowing himself as something distinct. It is only when he partakes of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or as I like to call it, the tree of opposites. I don't like good and evil, opposites. That humanity gains its first stage of awareness. Awareness of separation, awareness of duality. In versus out, up versus down, you versus me, sacred versus profane. The so-called eviction from Eden is not so much a punishment as it is an experience. The experience of knowing ourselves as separate from the divine. There is God, and there is me. What psychology would later call the birth of the ego. In eating the fruit, Adam awakens consciousness is born, but only partially. He can recognize opposites, naked, and not naked, profane and sacred. Opposites teach us about ourselves, but not who we are at the deepest level of our being. So the journey of awakening must continue. And the Christmas story offers us insight into this journey. The Christmas story is often thought of as the Gospel of Luke and Matthew. But it's actually in the Gospel of John that the deeper meaning is revealed. John actually begins before Adam and before the garden. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word, the Logos. It is often understood as creative intelligence, the deep pattern that lies behind all existence. Again, from John, he says, all things come into being through the Word, and without it, not one thing came into being. From this, we can kind of learn that the divine presence that breathed life into Adam has always been, is now, and always will be active in the world. John continues, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. John now introduces the tension, the challenge humanity faces, recognition of our divine nature. John goes on and makes this announcement. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was come into the world. Was come into the world. What does he mean the true light was coming into the world? He is not announcing the birth of Jesus because Jesus has already been born. I believe John is announcing a shift in consciousness, a growth, an expansion, not for one person or a chosen few, but for all of humanity. Humanity is awakening to its true nature. The divine is always present, illuminating everyone. We simply do not recognize it. Yet John also tells us that some have recognized it. He goes on to say that those who have recognized it have become children of God. But in Jesus, that recognition becomes something more. And the Word, God, and the Word became flesh. The word or God is not merely reflected in our recognition, it is embodied. Jesus does not simply recognize the logos within him. No, he takes it a step further. He lives from it without separation. John calls Jesus the Christ, not because he alone has access to the logos, but because he embodies that access fully and without distortion. Adam became self-aware, but not yet aware of his divinity. So for a time, humanity needed guidance. We lived by the law, wisdom given from outside. As John says, the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Christ. Coming into our Christ nature, the fully lived embodiment of the world, we move from external guidance to internal realization. Grace and truth move us inward, becoming lived and embodied rather than just merely obeyed. So while God created Adam, mankind, by eating of the tree of duality, consciousness was born. In the Gospel of John, we can understand the deeper meaning of the why of Christmas story. It is the story of our journey to our full divine nature, which is not yet complete. So let's pick up the story with the Gospel of Luke. Where John helps us understand the why, Luke shows us how our journey unfolds. How one becomes fully embodied expression of the divine. We'll begin the story where Gabriel comes to Mary. Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you. But she was much perplexed by his words and wondered what sort of greeting is this might be. In this opening scene, we can see some key patterns of the journey. First, the Lord is with you suggests that Mary was already open and receptive to spirit. Mary is not chosen because of her deeds, but because of her state of being of openness to the divine nature. Second, even though she is visited by an angel and told she is chosen, she doesn't gloat. She doesn't claim special status. She is humble, but she is perplexed, wondering, why me? She is confused. She did not expect this. She didn't pray for it, plan for it, ask for it. Another pattern is we feel. Something enters into her awareness, an invitation she did not anticipate, and her inner world is unsettled. Isn't that how you experience awakening? Awakening often begins through disruption. So how are we supposed to respond to disruption? Well, Mary tells us and shows us when she's told she's going to bear a child, and she asks, how can this be? She's not blindly accepting it. She's not disbelieving it. She's becoming discerning. And Gabriel answers, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of Most High will overshadow you. And Mary's response is really significant. She says, here am I, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word. Mary is showing us a key element toward embodiment of the divine, acceptance. Incarnation does not happen when Gabriel appears. It happens only when Mary consents. The word becomes flesh when disruption is met with trust and acceptance. Accept the disruptions that life brings to you, and you open yourself to divine guidance. But disruptions are not only internal, that they not only come from within, from that little inner voice or an angel. Luke continues the story. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. An imperial decision, distant and impersonal, suddenly rearranges ordinary lives. Mary and Joseph, in the final days of Mary's pregnancy, imagine 8, 9 months pregnant, has to go out, leave their home, not by choice, but because of a decision made in Rome. And when they arrive, there was no place for them in the inn. My. They just can't catch a break, can they? How would you respond to such a disruption in your life? Something like this. Somebody upon high makes a decision, causes you no end of grief. You try to find your way, and nothing seems to turn your way. Well, let's see how Mary responds. She responds just like she did to Gabriel. Acceptance. No protest, no outrage, no insistence that life should be different. They respond, a stable? Sure. A manger? Okay, a feeding trough? That'll work. Embodiment does not remove disruption. It does not guarantee ease. It actually invites us into something deeper. The Christ, the full embodiment of the divine, does not enter a protected life or a life of privilege and power. It enters an ordinary life, a life lived with humility, shaped by forces beyond control. The word takes flesh in limitation, vulnerability, and humility. Luke reinforces this another final time. He goes on to say, in that region there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And you have to understand, back then, shepherds weren't a romantic figure. They were marginal people, mistrusted, considered unclean, not only physically, but spiritually. And yet they were the first to hear, do not be afraid, for see, I bring you good noise of great joy for all the people. To the shepherds, not rulers, not scholars, not religious authorities, is given a message for all the people, not the elite, not the privileged, but everyone. The divine enters the world at ground level, accessible to all who are humble, open, and accepting. So, we see in John why the Christ is come. Luke shows us how the Christ becomes embodied. Let's take a look at what Matthew has to offer. It opens with, in the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east come to Jerusalem. And they ask, where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star, its rising, and have come to pay him homage. So let's break this down. Who comes to pay homage? Magi from the east. Magi were not kings. They were not religious leaders. They are three dudes who come from a foreign land, seekers from another worldview, another way of knowing. They're certainly not part of the in crowd. And once again, we are told the light is visible to anyone willing to follow the star, to pay attention. And Magi were scholars of the cosmos, readers of the sign, people who gave prophecy, interpreters of dreams. They lived at the intersection of heaven and earth. So for them, when they speak of King of the Jews, they are not naming a political power, as Herod thought they were. No, they named a deeper kind of authority, one that does not dominate life, but reveals its deep order. For me, this raised an interesting question. If the Magi's are readers of signs, why does the star bring them to Jerusalem and not directly to Bethlehem? Here is what I believe. They are on a journey to discover the divine. When you look for the divine, where do you go? They looked where I think most of us look. They went to expertise, to authorities, to institutions. These authorities lived in Jerusalem. And so, of course, they went to Jerusalem. But it did not find the divine in the midst of books, teachers. They found them a different way. But before we go on to that, I think there's another reason they were guided to Jerusalem. It is in how Herod responds. Herod hears the word king, and it awakens his fear. And as we know, a whole chain of events is set into motion. We might wonder if the Magi had gone directly to Bethlehem, Could all of what was set in motion have been avoided? Through this story, Matthew offers us some insight, really important insight, albeit I think a difficult one. Truth does not enter the world quietly. Careful not to desert. Oh, my words. Hang on a second. It doesn't try to prevent itself from disturbing what already exists. Quite frankly, it disturbs us greatly. It reveals what is already there, often fear, insecurity, conflict. Our journey toward embodiment calls us to see and acknowledge the truth hiding underneath the veneer of our surface lives. The Magi's journey does not end in Jerusalem. The star appears again. Remember, it's a star. It's not scripture. It's not doctrine, not a set of instructions. A star, a symbol, not a map. Something that points the way in just enough light to lead to the next step. Well, they finally do arrive in Bethlehem, and Matthew concludes, on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening the treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Having warned by a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Magi followed their star, their inner voice, and came to experience the vine. The journey was not without conflict, and not even a desire, not even a desire to set into motion some events that some may say are horrific. It wasn't their intention, but they followed the star to where it took them, even if it did set up a future set of events. And then once coming upon the divine, they offered gifts that recognized the threefold nature of the divinity. Gold for the king, the Father. Myrrh for humanity, the Son. And frankincense for spirit, the Holy Ghost. And then humbly recognizing the divine, they are transformed. And now must return a different way. When we encounter the divine nature within us, we are changed forever. And once changed, you can never return to your old self. A new path awaits, even if you don't know what it is. And so we come to the end of the Christmas story, a story told by John, Luke, and Matthew of a journey to spiritual embodiment. Though told through Christian lens, it is a universal story echoed across traditions for thousands of years. As you know, I'm an interfaith minister, and I chose that path because I've always found seeking the stories of other traditions often deepens my own understanding. So I'd like to review a few of the key messages of the gospel and take a brief journey into how other traditions present the same themes. John's message is the word seeking expression in flesh, and that is a journey that was started with Adam but not completed. Hinduism has an interesting concept called the avatar, and it's the concept that the divine seeks expression and form, but it adds an interesting twist, seeks expression and form whenever the world loses balance. Jewish mysticism, we have the story of the Shekhinah, the idea that divine presence dwells among the people. Again, a different form, but we see the word, I always get that, should not use words like that when in my Brooklyn accent. Again, we see the word seeking expression in flesh, always highlighting the idea that the divine is available to all who seek it. For those who do seek, Luke's message gives us the how. The divine becomes embodied through humility and acceptance. Well, in Buddhism, there is a similar how. It is through attention, compassion, and acceptance. In Matthew, we learn seekers on a journey must follow guidance without certainty. Just like Abraham, who was told by God, "Go to the land I will show you." He doesn't give Abraham directions or a map or even an explanation, just an inner voice to follow. Zen Buddhism has an interesting concept, this idea that the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon, where the star that points to the Christ is not the Christ. It's just giving us guidance. Different stories, different languages, same human longing, same invitation. Christmas, then, is not only about the birth of a boy named Jesus. It is about the journey of the coming of the Christ, the Word expressing in form. It is also a personal story about our willingness to recognize the light and to follow it step by step, to open to and accept with discernment and humility what the journey brings, and to offer whatever gifts we have for the healing and blessing of the world. So let me end with a simple reminder and an invitation. The reminder is what Drac offered us. Open to and accept that Spirit am I. And the invitation, I invite you to explore what star is guiding you. What light are you following? And what gifts are you offering the world? Perhaps Carol's poem offers us some ideas of what to offer. Gold, recognizing the divine in one another. Frankincense, offering the honoring of the spirit within you and the other. And myrrh, compassion for our shared humanity. Merry Christmas, and God bless us, everyone.
Well, it's time on our program to go to play Silent Night. We always do this here at ALC. But tonight, let's go back as little children when we were around the Christmas tree, and that time was especially magic for us. And as we were around the tree, we would settle down and sometimes listen to this song in the background, and we pretend we were in the forest and it was silent night all around. Merry Christmas, everyone.
So now it's time for us to light our candles. I hope everybody brought their little candles with them. And as you light your candle, I would like you to think about the question, how do you follow your guiding light? And I open the floor to anyone who wants to share. Eric?
Yeah, the way that I handle that is I trust in my intuitive connection to my soul and my higher self as a guidance.
What comes to mind for me is I follow joy. It's like, and it's not just a thing out there to run after, but where what I do or where I am that brings that joy from within.
Thank you. Carol?
I share my light as I think of moving forward in deeper understanding of all beings and all events and all hope and joy and love everywhere.
Thank you, Carol.
In my life, I seek to embody empathy and integrity.
Cheryl?
My light seems to show up as service to others and how I can help.
Thank you. Barbara?
Mine is very same as Linda's, is I participate in joy, and that's how I connect.
Thank you. Jack?
I'm similar to what Eric does. I listen to that higher guidance that I know is there, except I use tools of divinity like tarot cards and sometimes journal it, which is really neat. And then I use it for service.
Thank you. Diane?
Well, I forgot my light, but I'm pretending it's right here.
Oh,
And so
it shines through you all.
it's behind me too.
It is.
And I see an offering. I love what everybody said, seeing an offering of joy and offering that as service.
Mm. Anyone else? Jane?
I like the idea of following my joy, and I think I also follow my curiosity because what I'm drawn to tends to be where my purpose lies.
Thank you. Anybody else? For me, I've learned to feel an inner settling, uh, sense of ease and calm where the conflict, the polarities, the if this or that, whatever chaos might go on in my mind, just kind of dissipates. And there's another word I use is a sense of knowing or rightness. Or as a friend of mine used to say, there's sort of a bell that rings instead of a thud. There's just a clarity about it. And so I just move forward. I'd like to thank everyone for their offerings. And may you always follow your light with humility and acceptance and trust. The divine will guide us to his or her presence. And may we embody it as fully as the Christ did.
So at this time on Christmas, we just offer the invitation if you would like to financially support the Abundant Life Center. You can always do that generally through the website when it's working, and also by sending a check to the P.O. box. And all the ways people serve and support the Abundant Life Center throughout the year, as well as now, are just so much appreciated. Thank you.
In The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes said, "There is that within each individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness, and insofar as it operates is God. That is the true meaning of the word Emmanuel and the meaning of the word Christ. There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we therefore are divine beings." With this understanding, let's pause for a moment and breathe in gratitude for the blessing that we each are and for the good that we offer the world through our divine presence. Knowing that each of us has come here tonight by divine appointment and that each of us is in this world for a sacred purpose. May we each carry this understanding forward with us as we approach Christmas, a holy day of remembrance of the truth of our divine selves. We are blessed, and so it is.
So right now, I just want to say a huge, huge, huge thank you for every one of you being here, because we share a new message for Christmas, but the real joy is being with family and friends. So thank you for being here to share in our tradition of ALC and our candlelighting service and exploring a new meaning or perspective on that Christmas story. And I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who was involved in putting this service together. A lot of hands went to it, a lot of time and energy, and it was just beautiful. Thank you so, so, so much. And just stay afterwards and visit on Zoom, and Merry Christmas.